I'm here with Rob Sitterley, the recently hired first president and CEO of Artex Regional Economic Development Incorporated, or READY, the organization founded last year to bring new businesses and jobs to the area. Welcome to Texarkana.
Thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate it.
First of all, can you just share a little bit about yourself and your background? How do you find yourself in this economic development niche?
Uh, yeah, that's a great question. And, there are a lot of universities that are trying to promote economic development as an actual subject that will be a major within their universities so that those folks that graduate with a degree in economic development can go out and actually start doing God's will
Right.
and bring jobs to their local community. A lot of people just don't understand what economic development is. They don't understand that most counties, if not all, or most cities have an economic development group within their group. And again, their job is to go and find work and bring and diversify the economy, their local economy, as best they can. You never want to be in an area that has just one large major employer and then something were to happen to either that industry or that company and you've got massive layoffs and people out of work. You want to have a diversified economy so that you've got a manufacturing sector, maybe an aviation, maybe some corporate offices, financial services. You want to try to do your best to diversify. And so my background, right out of college, I started with Montgomery County Economic Development Group. It's since changed its name, but it's an EDC that was in upstate New York, my hometown. And I spent 2 years there where I learned kind of the trade and what economic development truly was. I since left and went into the private sector and worked for a municipal bond brokerage group for a number of years. But then kind of found my way back into it. When I moved to Florida, I actually sat and interviewed with a gentleman with the Metro Orlando EDC. And so that's the economic development group that services the city of Orlando and surrounding communities. And he didn't actually even have a position open at that time for me. But he said, I know of a group that does here. It's the state organization. It's called Enterprise Florida. And I wasn't really all that familiar with Enterprise Florida. Everyone thinks of Enterprise Florida as the rental car company.
Right.
And, it's far from it. So Enterprise Florida was the state of Florida's lead economic development group. And it's a public-private entity that received money both from public and private groups. And so I joined the staff at Enterprise Florida as a project manager and quickly worked my way up that I was leading the whole business development group when I left after just a little over 6 years, I think I was there. And it was a great time. We did a lot of really great projects in Florida. I was very fortunate to work under Governor Scott, who is a jobs governor, much like Governor Abbott and Governor Hutchinson are here in Texas and Arkansas, respectively. And I was fortunate enough to answer directly to the Secretary of Commerce, Gray Swope, who did a fantastic job. Gray had been the Secretary of Commerce in Mississippi, and then when Governor Scott was elected in his first term, he brought him over from Mississippi to Florida.
A lot of people around here, me included, are just hearing about these EDCs, as you call them, for the first time. Can you help put that in context for us? Explain what the role of these organizations are, what unique they bring to the table, and what capabilities they're able to bring to bear.
Yeah, so, an economic development group or an EDC, is tasked to help those already in the community. It's a two-prong approach. Their sole job is not to go out and recruit business. That's one half of it. The other half is to work with the local businesses that are already in place and help them make the community much more business friendly. So a business may come to an economic development group and say, hey, we're having problems with the permit office, or we're having problems with this tax, or with the water company. And so the EDC on the local level, it's incumbent upon them to make sure they understand what the problem is and then go work with that entity to fix it. And a lot of projects, really good projects, occur by working with your local businesses, making sure you understand what they're doing, what needs and help they could use, and then kind of digging a little bit deeper. What businesses could we go out and speak with that would make your lives a whole lot easier? What end users are you using in your process? Whether it's a manufacturing, they're getting raw resources brought in. Where are those raw resources coming from? And so the other half of it is recruiting business, and again, it goes to the diversification of the local economy. How do we go about finding the right mix of businesses to recruit that will diversify the economy? So if anything happens, whether it's an issue with tariffs right now on Chinese steel, that has consequences for certain manufacturers. And so if you're able to diversify the economy, some are less hurt than others and can continue to grow when times get a little tougher.
What lured you to Texarkana? What do you see here in this region that made you think you could really succeed here?
First and foremost, the people. I can see a real hunger and kind of can-do attitude for bringing business here. There's already some really great companies that are located here. Cooper Tire and Rubber, Leadwell. There are some really impressive manufacturing. So they picked this area for a reason. But people first and foremost, from my board to just the average citizen on the street, is saying it's time to do what we can here to bring more business and jobs to the area. And so people first and foremost, and then just looking at the assets, the infrastructure, road infrastructure is incredible. There are highways that just flow through this area, and it's such a logistic kind of dream spot in that you're perfectly located between Little Rock and Dallas on some great highways. Not too far south where it doesn't make sense for a major manufacturer to be able to get product elsewhere around the country. And so it's logistically a really good place to be.
Sort of the other side of that coin, you mentioned helping businesses already here improve. What sort of disadvantages do you see around here that are, or where do you see where there could be room for improvement, I guess is the question.
I think probably the biggest room for improvement would be the airport.
Yeah.
In my line of work, when you're trying to woo a company to an area, first impressions matter. And the airport is, and I know thankfully there are plans, to refurbish it and add a couple terminals, which will be a huge win. But just right now, as we sit here today, the airport is tough. But I've heard, I haven't met with yet. I'm looking forward to meeting with the director. I've heard, he's a really vibrant, smart individual that gets it and understands that there's a need there, and he's working towards it. And so I look forward to sitting down with him and kind of brainstorm a little bit about maybe how I can help, and hopefully look forward to the day where people get off the plane and are excited that they're in Texarkana.
What's at the top of your list? What are your short-term goals? First 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, short-term goals is just to really kind of examine and find some industrial land that we can go out and market and then ultimately sell. Work with companies. We're fortunate. We've got Tex Americas. That's a great industrial park that has thousands of acres available. But it's one spot in the area. I think that we've got to find some on both sides of the state line, some land in Arkansas and the equivalent in Texas, that we can identify, aggressively market, and then relentlessly sell. Those are our things. I've also got to work on some marketing information, some collateral information that tells a better story of who Texarkana is. When I came here, I'd worked with and been in site selection, and so knew and know probably the top 100 site selectors in the country, and a majority of them didn't even know where Texarkana was. And so that's a story for us to go out and make sure that they know where we are, what we're good at, what our strengths are, and then be able to work with them in the future with some available land.
Let's talk about the uniqueness of Texarkana in terms of the interstate nature of what you're doing here. How does that change how you see what's happening here? How does it change what you're about to do? The fact that you're going to be dealing with 2 to 4 states at once.
Yeah, I think, I look at that as a huge asset, that you're able to draw from a large area. And again, going back to a large manufacturer, being able to plant or locate a large manufacturer here, you can literally point to them on a map. This is where we are, and there are 4 states all within minutes, truly, of where we're located. That's an asset, in my opinion, for sure. And again, back with the roads and the interstate travel and infrastructure, it's really kind of second to none. I've been all over the country. I've done site selection work for a number of companies, and it's truly a unique opportunity. Just how connected this place is to other major markets all around the South.
Are there any complicating factors? Do you have to worry about differing regulations and that sort of thing?
You know, I bring a little bit different. I've worn different hats. So my time as a site selector, I've worked with some states that are very difficult, and they aren't as pro economic development as you would like them to be, and it really hurts. You can look at New York and what has happened with Amazon and the fact that Amazon was willing to walk away given what they felt in New York. That certainly isn't a problem here in either state, Texas or Arkansas. I mean, I clearly know both states are pro economic development, pro jobs, and have 2 governors that are all in on the efforts. I mean, the event that they held, a number of months ago just proves that both governors came here, spent a day promoting this area. I'm looking forward to working with both and their teams to win some really important, great landmark sort of projects here.
I'm very curious about sort of the particulars and specifics of just how you go about doing this. I guess this is sort of the typical day question. What do you do? I mean, how do you even know which businesses are out there looking for a place? Are you on the
Yes.
phone every day, all day?
Yeah,
Or how does it work?
so economic development isn't really any different than even your business. It's
Mm.
relationships, understanding and knowing the right people to talk to. And so, the better part of 12 years I've spent building those relationships with both directly with the companies, directly with their in-house groups that make those decisions in terms of where they're going to relocate or grow future operations. And then again with site selectors. Site selectors are tasked by businesses to go and find them where they want to grow and prosper for the next 50,
And I
100
guess
years.
there's sort of a community of these
There is.
people out
There's roughly 2,000 nationwide, but really 100 that are the real movers and shakers that work with large Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. And over my time in Florida and my time as a site selector, I've built relationships, friendships with these people, and so I will be reaching out to them once we have something to actually sell. We have some land to market and some property for them to look at. I'll be reaching out. But I hear all the time from different friends. And I've been on the phone the last week and a half since I've been on the job, just kind of talking about what's going on, what businesses are looking. And so you just kind of keep your ear to the rail, so to speak, to hear what's new and what businesses are interested.
Tell me about your vision for Ready itself. Where do you see it in 5 years from now? Are you thinking about adding staff, or
Yeah,
how are you planning to grow
yeah.
the organization?
I for sure the group has got to be bigger than one,
Right.
and we'll need some marketing strength at some point. We'll need some business development individuals that can continue the message outside. So I see the staff remaining relatively small. It's never going to be a big
Hmm.
organization, but maybe at some point 6 or 7 folks in 5 years, maybe a handful more.
Hmm.
It will really depend on how successful we are as to how we grow.
How do you measure success? I mean, the obvious thing is recruitment, but other than that, what sort of benchmarks are you looking at?
Really, just a couple of things. You're exactly right. You measure it by the number of jobs that you've influenced to come here. You measure it by the capital investment that's been made by those companies that have chosen the region for their
Hmm.
growth. And you measure it by the average wage of what those companies pay. So we're always going to go out and do our best to attract high wage jobs to the area. Every job counts and every job matters, but we're going to look a little bit higher than minimum wage. We're going to try to go and attract businesses that raise that level. Whether it's 115 or 120% of the average wage in the area. Those are the kind of jobs that we're going to try to go out and promote and attract.
Last question. What's your message to people out in the community who want to help you do what you're doing?
I appreciate all help, and this truly is a community kind of all hands on deck sort of approach. And economic development is truly a team sport. And last night we had a reception, a ready reception, and we had a ton of local interest and support. I think over 200 people were there at the reception, which really shows that this community is fully on board with trying to bring more work, more jobs here to the area. And so I welcome, folks reaching out to me. I can't do it alone. I need their help. And I look forward to working with, the community at large.
What did I leave out? Anything else?
I think you've covered it all. Yeah, great.
Excellent. Thank you again for taking a few minutes, and
I
again,
appreciate it.
welcome to town.